Mike Vrabel's relationship with Bill O'Brien might be the first step for Boston College to get more attention in the New England area.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. I'm the editor of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. Check out my written work over there. On today's show, we're going to discuss Pro Day. We're going to get into what other players could catch on in the NFL. We're going to look at the players for BC that could end up with the Patriots, because I think this is going to be something worth talking about, and the relationship between Bill O'Brien and Mike Vrabel, why that could be a very big talking point. And finally, we'll also look at some basketball transfer portal, and a name that you all know from last year is back in the portal. Will BC look at him? I'll talk about it. Now, on Monday, BC held their annual Pro Day at the Fish Field House. This had all the guys that were in the NFL Combine, the Senior Bowl, and then all the other players that are still trying to find their way onto NFL teams. So you had your Donovan Ezeiruakus and Ozzy Trapilos, and all the way down to, players that maybe don't have a good shot at making an NFL team. Guys like, Kamari Morales or Trayshawn Ward, who great guys, but it's going to be tough for them. That's all I'm just saying. But the big story for this, if you watched anything on Twitter or YouTube, all the videos were transfixed on Mike Vrabel being there and his whole staff evaluating BC. Now, Mike Vrabel is the new head coach of the Boston College, new head coach of the New England Patriots, and he obviously has a deep connection to Boston College. His son Tyler was an offensive lineman that played with Ozzy Trapilo and Drew Kendall and some of these other guys. I think he played with Donovan too. So he knows a lot of these players and has a connection. Additionally, he's best friends with Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien, knew him as his defense. Vrabel was his defensive coordinator with the Houston Texans. Vrabel, has made recommendations to him. That's how he got Jordan Thomas off of the Browns. The two of them go back. They're very tight. So, having Vrabel there was a big deal. But I think of it even as a bigger piece here, because I feel like one of the big, sticking points with BC is that you're in a pro sports town. That it's the Patriots, the Celtics, the Bruins, the Red Sox, heck, even the Revolution, and then down near the bottom is BC. It always feels like it's the pros and then everyone else. But this is the first time to me, since I've followed and covered BC, that it feels like there's a connection between a pro sports team and Boston College. That Mike Vrabel's connection to Bill O'Brien is tangible, and this is going to help support BC get to another level. Now, Vrabel, he talked to the team before his pro day. He got to talk to all the BC players. This is not anything like super special, because last year they had the head coach of the Celtics talk to the BC at one of the scrimmages I went to. He was there. So they've done this kind of stuff before, but this is just one of many different things I think could happen. I think that having Vrabel talking about BC and showing his face on campus and, grabbing guys like Harold Landry out of free agency. I know he knew him otherwise. I think these are all little steps that are going to maybe get attention from a few other Joe Schmoes out there that aren't BC fans right now. There's going to be people that always hate BC in the Massachusetts area. They're called BU graduates or Northeastern graduates. It happens. It's going to happen. But there might be other people that are looking for good college football and see Bill O'Brien out there chumming around with the head coach of the Patriots. That could lead to some things. Now, what I'm interested in, they've joked about this before, is this BC and New England Patriots connection. Someone asked O'Brien a couple weeks ago, like, oh, is this going to mean that more guys are going to get drafted by the Patriots? He kind of laughed it off, and I understand why he laughed it off, but think of it this way. BC hasn't had a player on their roster from BC. Sorry, the Patriots have not had a player on their roster from BC since 2012. Ron Brace. They haven't had anyone drafted from BC in, whenever what was Brace, 2007, 2008. It's been forever. I think there's a good chance this year that Vrabel O'Brien connection is going to bear more fruit, and that BC is going to have more than one player on the Patriots this year. Tom Carroll of WEI pondered whether Ozzy Trapilo could be a second-round draft pick of the Patriots. I thought that was early, but I talked to Mitch Wolf, and I apologize. We thought we were going to get the combine numbers, but we didn't get them. So it's just me today. Sorry. But he said to me, like, it's not that far off that Trapilo could be an early second-round draft pick. And the Patriots, maybe Vrabel loves him. But I could see a Trapilo or Kendall get drafted by the Patriots. These are two guys that know his son. Vrabel's watched them enough to know what he has, and he can grade him out to where he could draft him. I would bet anything that one of the two, Trapilo or Kendall, will be with the Patriots next year. And that connection, having two, along with Harold Landry, having two players from Boston College, it seems kind of minute, but honestly, it's a big deal. You need for Bill O'Brien to try to get more mainstream with BC as much as possible. All those shows that he goes on, whether it's the Greg Hill show on, I forget what channel that is, or WEI or 98.5, getting on those channels to talk to the people of New England and say, hey, maybe you didn't go to BC, but we have a great football team and we're fun to watch. That's only going to help. And that is what BC has to do. You can talk to all the alumni that you want, and believe me, part of his job is reinvigorating the alumni fan base that has gone into a coma. But getting more local buy-in is going to increase everything around this program, whether it's, television ratings or tickets or whatever, buying merchandise. It all helps. And that's what Bill O'Brien has to do. So having Mike Vrabel there, and yes, 32 teams were at Pro Day. The Patriots, though, they kind of dominated what was going on. Like, it was a lot of talk about Mike Vrabel being there. And so I love this. I love it because the Patriots are adored in New England. If you're not a New England fan and you're a BC graduate, I get it. You're probably like, why are we talking about this? But, a good chunk of BC graduates are. And they're both. They're Patriots fans. They're they're BC Eagles fans. And they want to see this program rise. So having Mike Vrabel there legitimizes this program. It shows us, having him talking to your team, talking to Bill O'Brien constantly, that stuff is going to pay dividends down the road. I like this. I think it's a good start. And O'Brien has done it. One thing he has done has been excellent about bringing in players, whether it's Matt Ryan last year or former players. He hasn't had Brady on or Belichick. Obviously, he's not there anymore. But Dante Scarnecchio is around, and Ernie Adams. All these guys have been poking around at different points. All that helps. It helps with recruiting. It helps with how people perceive your team. That's what I love to see. Now, in our second segment, we've talked about the big four. Who else could be drafted by from BC, and who on this roster, or who in this group that was there on Monday could be someone that could catch on at camp or on a practice squad? I'll get into all that in just a moment. The Armada Team of the Week is brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, our locked-on college basketball experts are picking one team that stands apart. From top-seeded stars to the unexpected upsets, these guys showcase the strength and sheer power needed to push their team forward. This week's Armada and clear-cut Team of the Week is the Arkansas Razorbacks. Despite losing their first 5 SEC games, Coach Cal's Hogs fought their way through the most rugged conference in college basketball to not only make the NCAA tournament, but knock off back-to-back national championship and Hall of Fame coaches en route to the Sweet 16. They accomplished all of this without second leading scorer Boogie Flan for most of the SEC play, and without play leading scorer Adu Thero so far in the NCAA tournament. When it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer. That's exactly what the Arkansas Razorbacks have done here. It's clear that our team of the week is out here ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or of any Nissan's outstanding vehicles. Take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. Shop Nissan USA today. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. Thank you all for making us your first listen every day. And if you're an everydayer out there, you know that we've been talking about the NFL draft here. We've been talking about practice. We've got everything covered here. And when you're done with this episode, you also know to go check out Locked On ECC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, we've been, just when it comes to the NFL draft on Locked On BC, the emphasis has really been on 4 players. Obviously, the top one is Donovan Ezeiruaku and his meteoric rise to, I've seen him as high as 14 in some mock drafts. When you're talking the Patriots, I don't see him going to the Patriots. Just where he falls doesn't make sense unless the Patriots draft back. And this is not a Patriots podcast, but I'm just saying because we were just talking about them. I don't see him going to the Patriots. Additionally, Ozzy Trapilo, who could be a second or third round draft pick. Drew Kendall, I'm not even sure, third day at least, and same thing with Cam Horsley. Those are the 4 that, because of the NFL Combine, we've discussed at length where they could fall, what teams make good fits. Go back. Mitch Wolf has talked about it on the show. You can go back and get those details there. Now, these guys, the last thing to talk about those 4, many of them did more workouts on Monday that they did not do at the Combine. We saw Cam Horsley run the 40. We saw different. Drew Kendall was doing the long jump, the horizontal jump, doing things like that. But the players I want to talk about today are the ones that haven't really been discussed. These are your Cam Horsleys, Kai Robichaux, Trayshawn Wards, Kamari Morales, Dino Tomlin, Neto Ekpala, Cam Arnold, Jack Conley. These are the other players that were there. And these are the ones that we haven't really brought up. So I'm curious to talk to you about my thoughts of who has something about them that makes them attractive to an NFL team. And it's tough because you got a guy like Jack Conley, honestly, out of this group, I feel has some intangibles that make him probably a good camp fit for some of these programs, and probably will be a practice squatter. He's 6'7", he's huge and he's strong. For an offensive lineman, he'll find some time. So I really do feel like of all the other guys, Jack Conley probably has the best chance of catching on in the NFL. Now, whether he actually sticks with the team, I'm not sure. He's an older guy too. I think he's been with BC for 5 or 6 years. So, he's on the older end, but I could see him. I think he probably is my top guy. And beyond that, I'm curious how Cam Arnold does. He looked fast, and we don't get the official numbers because I wish we did, but we don't. But Cam Arnold is the linebacker who moved and looked really good from coming back from an injury that cost him most of his senior season. I feel really bad for Cam because it felt like there were times last year where this was going to be the year that he put it all together. Now, he still had some rough moments out there. The game against Mizzou, he really got exposed at times. But he's fast. And a fast linebacker, someone that could be, someone that an NFL team might look at and say, hey, this is a good camp guy. All these guys that we're going to talk about are camp guys. Beyond that, Kamari Morales has good hands. That might be something. Trayshawn Ward, same thing. He's a mobile back. But it'll be interesting to see how this group ends up, either in a camp or not in a camp, because I don't see any guys here. Dino Tomlin, like no offense to the kid, but he really didn't do a whole lot. So he doesn't have a ton of game film that shows off a ton. And I would imagine that his testings at Pro Day didn't show anything that were like jump off the charts. So, they're going to try. And I can't, I don't knock the hustle of any of these dudes. Like, you've worked your butt off for 22 years to get to the point that you're at now. Go try it. See what happens. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I'm still a little skeptical that any of these guys are going to find anything. But, we've watched lesser players figure out things in camp too, so it could happen. Now, before we wrap up Pro Day discussion, I just want to say that BC does a great job of getting guys to make you feel good about how they interview and how good they seem. I'm not a big fan of players that go out there and just brag. I I felt like I've seen either Shador Sanders or Cam Ward just telling how great they are. I mean, fine, go ahead, go do that. But you get Donovan Ezeiruaku. He went out there, and one of the quotes that he said really stuck out to me and showed me what kind of guy this guy really is. He talked about how BC gave him everything for the last 4 years, that they made him who he was and helped work with him to become the man that he is now. Now it's his job to give back to Boston College. I don't know how you could say that that's nothing less than the perfect example of what you want a Boston College athlete to be. He is that. It was so refreshing to hear that, to hear a guy that's as humble and smart, but also insanely talented, to really appreciate what Boston College was to him. And this is a guy that, had 2 head coaches. He had a off year once. He felt so strongly about his school that he came out and said that. Additionally, I say what it is, but he was also very, very excited about the future of BC. I think a lot of folks hopefully are, and what else is he going to say? But it's still nice to hear that kind of stuff, right? So that's the end of Pro Day. I think the bigger deal is obviously the NFL Draft Combine, but Pro Day is good too. The one weird thing about Pro Day was Taji Johnson was there. Taji Johnson transferred to Buffalo last year, but credit to BC, they opened it up so that he could get scouted. He's a BC guy, and Taji Johnson's a BC dude. This was a guy that was deep in the community there, so it was great that they kind of acknowledged that and brought him back. Now, in our final segment, the college basketball transfer portal is open. Over 700 players have entered already. Only one Boston College player, but there's already at least one name that folks are going to be watching, and I'll explain who that is and whether this would work or not in just a moment. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources, the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with complete inventory from over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here of Eagle Insider. I want to thank each and every one of you that has subscribed to our YouTube channel, who have hit that subscribe button on any podcasts, and who have helped us be found by other Boston College fans. All you everydayers know that your new task is to recommend us to one other Boston College fan. That's all you have to do. And if you've already done that, I want to thank each and every one of you. And when you're done with this episode, go check out Locked On College Basketball. If you're getting ready for your bracket, they have everything. And check it out on Amazon Fire as well.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Locked On Boston College again. Check that out. Now, let's talk basketball. While everyone else is still enjoying the March Madness brackets, and don't ask me about my bracket, it is awful. That's what I get for following a team that is terrible and not really paying all that much attention because I knew BC basketball was going to be bad. But my bracket is not in good shape. Now, while everyone else is watching that, the portal is already kicking in. For BC, as we said last week, only one player has entered the transfer portal, and that's Elijah Strong. Obviously, he was third or fourth on the team in scoring. You can fix and find other Elijah Strongs. Not that big of a deal. But now with 700 plus players in the portal, the question starts to go, who can BC target? Now, there's a bunch of different players and different reasons you could be looking at different things. One area you could be looking at is former FSU players. Steve Smith, your assistant that you hired last year after Anthony Goings left, was part of Florida State, and he was one of their ace recruiters. A bunch of his players have entered the portal. Could BC be looking at Florida State for some players? There's definitely some targets they could be looking at, but it all depends on how much roster room they have. I believe basketball goes up to 15 roster spots. Will BC pay for that? I hope so. But that could give them a few extra roster spots to look at in the portal. The name everyone wants to talk about, though, is a name we talked about a lot last year, and that is TJ Power. TJ Power from Worcester Academy is back in the portal for the second time. He started at Duke as a top 25 recruit. He ended up after 1 year top 20 recruit, ended up after 1 year transferring to UVA, where he did nothing. He ended up last year playing 9.3 minutes per game, averaging 1.3 points per game and 1 rebound. So why am I talking about him? Why would anyone care about this? Because why not? Yes, he failed at Duke. Yes, he didn't do anything at UVA. But he was a top 20 recruit for a reason. There's got to be something in there. He's a local kid twice now. Will the third time be the charm? If you have extra roster spots, there's worse things that you could be going after than TJ Power. Will they do it? I don't know. I don't know how the last recruitment went, if it was amicable or not. That's not something I am privy to. But I'm saying if it's a back end, like he should not be like your primary transfer that you're going after. But if you have 4 slots, one could go to TJ Power, and I'd be fine with that, which is crazy because if you go back a year, I was saying he should be the crown jewel of your transfer portal class. And boy, would I have egg on my face because that didn't seem to be working. But maybe a change of scenery, he would find something at BC. I don't have any expectations for next year for BC basketball unless they go out and do something drastic. TJ Power would not be that answer. But I am willing to give him a chance to watch and see if he could figure something out. I imagine his NIL money would not be that high. I feel like he's local. He's talented. He's recruited by high majors. Why not try him? Deion Brown went to a low major. He didn't seem to work out all that well. Maybe TJ Power could. Maybe he'll just fail too. I don't know. But I'm willing to give it a try. Will BC do it? I'm not sure. Part of me thinks that this is all just going to end up with him at like Northeastern or something, but that would be a really weird trajectory. We'll see what happens. So we'll have all that talk when portal guys choose BC. We'll get into it. Names of players connected, and of course on Eagle Insider, I got that all covered. If you know, you know. Thank you all for following along. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Check out all my written work at Eagle Insider, and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button here on YouTube or your podcast. We'll see you all again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.